Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's Podcasts. Today on Calgary's Podcasts, I have Jackie Rainforth, who is an international speaker, trainer, author, and consultant, specializing in B2B sales, leadership, and business growth, based here in Calgary. Thanks for joining us, Jackie.
Thank you for having me, Mario.
Well, that's a mouthful of what you do, but tell us in a nutshell, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Well, I help businesses grow. It's about sales. Sales is the fundamental basis of every business. If you don't have sales, you don't have a business. And, because you don't have cash flow and you don't have revenue coming in, and that's what all businesses need. And so that's what I do. I help businesses grow.
Let's chat a little bit about your background. How did you get involved in all this?
Well, I've always been a top performer in sales. I started off in sales, and then of course I became, the typical regional manager, and then grew to executive director in sales and marketing. And I eventually owned my own. I was founder and CEO of my own sales agency. And so I've been both entrepreneur and worked at, in the corporate field. So I kind of have a background in everything. I know what it's like to be in all of those positions.
Yeah.
And so when I'm helping clients, it's easy for me to understand their perspective.
What kind of sales were you in?
Manufacturing, well, B2B. I've been in the B2B business, manufacturing. So I understand, I've been kind of in all roles, right? Where I've understood. I've worked for a global manufacturer. I've been basically in the plumbing industry, but it's wholesale, it's manufacturing, working with contractors, um, and I called on designers, architects, engineers, contractors, showrooms, luxury. I mean, you name it, I've kind of dealt with all of them. So.
Yeah. Now, when you look at businesses today, obviously there's a lot of ways and places that people get leads or connections with things. You know, what does it take though to go from that to an actual sale?
Well, I believe that it's really about knowing your fundamental sales skills. That's core. I mean, a lot of people wing it, and you know when that happens
Yeah.
because they just go in, they don't know what they're talking about. They just kind of, yeah, I mean, I call it. It depends what you're talking about, but I call it the shark and the guppy. These sales guys, or these purchasers, the business owners, the people making key decisions, they've been around a long time, and they know when salespeople come in and they're winging it because they're just not professional. They don't know what they're talking about. They're not following a sales process. You
Yeah.
need a sales process, especially today. You're not following a sales process, you don't have a strategy, you're not providing value and solutions, you're just not in the game.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen, and this is the important part, as time moves on, as AI, artificial, intelligence comes of age, the guys that are just, the fringe players, the fringe sales guys, they're not going to be required. It's A game players that are going to be required because sales is changing.
Hmm.
And, I keep saying it, you've got to be on your game. You've got to know the sales skill. You've got to know how to prospect. You've got to know that sales process. And 28% of companies that use sales process and use it well, and their salespeople are trained well, they earn, they earn 28% more. That's the key. And,
Yeah.
organizations that earn, 28%, that's a significant add-on to their bottom line.
Yeah. Now, when we when we talk about salespeople, there's an impression a lot of people have in their heads, right? The used car salesman, the
Yeah.
let's say, slimy type individual. But is that, I guess, the key as from an individual's perspective of being a seller of something, is that you can't come across as a quote unquote salesman. Do you know what I mean?
Well, selling has changed, and it's because of the history of selling. Back in the 50s and 60s, it all became about the glitz and the glam of, oh, we're gonna give you this shiny, whatever, and it was the big pitch and it was the excitement of it, and but there were no warranties. There was no follow-up. There was no, people have been used and abused when it came to selling because they were taken, and that's all changed. Well, I guess, I guess for some people, some industries it's still been there. If we, y- I won't say timeshare, but it's still there. There's still people that are pitching and taking and are being aggressive in their selling, and that's not what we want. There's also that professional salesperson out there, and that's what we're going for. No one wants to be had. We've all been, you know, talk to the hand. We don't want to deal with
Yeah.
you. That's not something we want. And what we're talking about is sales professionalism here. And there is a whole, you know, selling is huge. Every company out there has salespeople. And
Mhm.
so, we're not talking about that level. And I know a lot of us, we think, oh, selling, that's where we go to, is that
Yeah.
slimy stuff. But it's not. It's about vision and giving people vision and telling stories and you know, it's just a whole other level. We're not talking about that slimy
Yeah.
salesperson anymore. It's a whole, and that's why process is so important.
What is it that a company should look for in a salesperson?
Oh, that's a whole other show. Um, what you're looking for first, these days, and what's really changing is network. Are they networked?
Yeah.
Because it's about who you know. That's I keep telling salespeople, you need to have your own database because that's what people are looking for. You
Yeah.
need results. Are they creating results for the companies that they work for? That's really important because do they know how to prospect? That's key. So I have seen people that have been in sales for years and do not know how to prospect. They're still running from it. They're going from job to job to job because they don't know how to prospect. And they're still fearful of it, or they don't have the skill. And do people have the skill? Do they have the selling skill? Do they know the sales process? The processes. More importantly, do they have the right attitude, or are they an ego based? People have the right attitude, you can teach them anything.
Yeah.
And, when I had my sales agency, I was taking on a whole, the company I work for. They said, "Oh no, you should take on all these guys from our industry because they've got experience in the industry."
Yeah.
Well, that was not a great thing to do. They had experience, but they also had a lot of baggage. I took on salespeople that had the right. They didn't have a lot of experience, but they had the right attitude, and we all know that attitude is everything. You
Yeah.
can teach people the right way to sell, and that's what I did. And we ended up becoming the top in the industry within 4 years, like
Mhm.
selling millions and millions of, 280% increase in 4 years. So that tells you we're talking tens and tens of millions of dollars. So that tells you a lot.
So I'm curious, in terms of a salesperson, how important is it that the person is liked, I guess? If I'm a salesperson going to you as a company to sell you something, uh, do I yeah, do the people there really have to like me as a person? Does that have to shine through in some way?
Absolutely. Of course, people have to like you. It's about rapport and relationships. They have to like you. They have to know you, like you, and trust you.
Mhm.
Trust being the most important,
Yeah.
right? Because if they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you, particularly from women. Women have to like you. And men are more utilitarian in terms of purchasing. If they want the object, they're just going to buy it if it fits their needs. But women in particular have to like you or they're not going to buy from you. Men, if they trust you, they don't necessarily have to like you, but they need to trust you.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's all about rapport and relationships. Absolutely.
Mm.
And, yeah, it's very, very important. And these days, particularly when you look at, you know, my post the other day, I post daily on LinkedIn and, have a ton of followers because they're always looking for what's new and exciting, what's happening, what are the trends that are going
Yeah.
on in selling today. And one of the big things that's happening is that with the explosion of technology, we're losing that ability to create relationships, to create, our social, our emotional intelligence skills are dropping like flies, especially, and I don't want to, generalize, but the younger generation,
Yeah.
all their relationships are based on technology,
Yeah.
texting, Snapchat,
On
TikTok.
this, right?
Yeah, it's all about that. And so the Fortune 500 companies, the top companies, they're all looking for an advancement in emotional intelligence skills, self-regulation, empathy, communication skills, all of those things that really matter in terms of building rapport and relationship because we're losing that ability to build relationships. So yeah,
Mhm.
being liked is important. They
Yeah.
need to know you, like you, and trust you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But on the flip side of the technology thing, and you mentioned your use of social media and LinkedIn specifically, how important is that for companies to utilize and take advantage of the social media that's out there?
Oh, social selling and AI are huge. So I'm top 500 on LinkedIn. And in there, I have a social selling index of top 1%. So I started using LinkedIn years ago and started posting, daily tips probably 5 years ago before it became a big thing. And it's huge. Every social selling is the new cold calling. And
Yep.
AI now has just exploded that. Everybody is, trying to figure out how do we do this? Because especially with COVID and people being remote working, people aren't, it's not, we're not going door to door like we used to and just,
Yeah.
calling on offices like we used to or
Yeah.
dropping in. And it really is about expanding the visibility, expanding the reach. And that is done through social selling. And AI has exploded that even further because the visibility and reach that you get through AI, it has just blown up. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've noticed these days, but your inbox and yeah, oh yeah, right? It's almost too much. So
Yeah.
how, I've got companies contacting me and saying, how do we do this? How do we do this, Jackie? And
And
so I'm helping companies digitally transform their businesses and start social selling so that they can do it themselves.
yeah.
And that's what my blog or that's what my post was about today. How do you do it? Like, because AI makes it affordable and you can do it yourself, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But how do you stand out? How do you do it? I used to pay a fortune to get people to do lead gen for me in a way that was kind of, it was one function of AI.
Yeah.
But how do you do it? How do you set it up where you've got all these multiple funnels coming in so that you
Mhm.
can generate more leads, you can bring in more customers, you can find these customers because they're not just down the street anymore.
You know,
They're everywhere.
yeah, and it's funny you mentioned your inbox as just the one thing
Oh,
that drives me crazy is every single day my inbox is filled with these people from all over the world, Mumbai, Pakistan, whatever, UK, about how they can help you uh, grow your digital presence. And I go, oh my
oh,
God.
oh, they have capitalized on it
Yeah,
massively, for
yeah,
sure. But
yeah,
it's also expanded the market, right?
exactly.
Your
Yeah,
global reach. So, like for me, I can now train in Malaysia, in Pakistan, in
yeah,
India, in, you know, English speaking countries where I never had access before.
yeah,
So that's what's made it terrific for me.
yeah,
And, it's, there's pros and cons, but how do you stand out now? I
yeah,
know that, when I was paying thousands and thousands of dollars for a company to do that, just not even a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe. No, it was about a year ago. I was getting leads like crazy every month coming in. Now it doesn't happen like that because the market is flooded.
Yeah.
and people aren't responding. And even LinkedIn, it's flooded, right? So
Mm,
it needs more. And one of the posts that I put through the other day, you need to zig when people are zagging, right? You need to pick up that phone because the phone is becoming much, much more important now.
interesting.
When other people are just sending out the email, guess what? That phone is really, really important.
Excellent.
Really important.
So how
Yeah.
many, so many LinkedIn followers do you have?
Over 20,000.
Okay.
I
Tell
wish
me,
I had more. I wish I had more.
tell me why you focused on LinkedIn as uh, say as opposed to any other social media platforms.
Oh, well, first of all, they get over 1 million new subscribers a month. They have the average family income is over $150,000, and it's business based.
Yeah.
86% of key decision makers are following on LinkedIn when they make their business decisions based on what they see
Hmm.
on LinkedIn. So they don't the key decision makers, they're following, they're watching, they're
Yeah.
reading, they're listening, they're not engaging as much, right? Like they're not out there, they're not like, oh hey, hey, and playing on it, but they're on there and they're
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
and they're making their decisions based on what's out there. So anyone that's in sales needs to be on, and I keep,
Yeah.
anyone that follows me knows, and I keep giving them, you need to be a go-to industry expert. You need to be branding. There's four key things that you need to be doing in social selling. And I keep, putting it out there, and I give tons of value on
Yeah.
how do you do it? What should you be doing? How do you get out there? And I give lots of free stuff on what you should be doing, and that's what I do because you need to be out there.
So, in this day and age, is it rare for you to come across a CEO or a president of a company that isn't on LinkedIn?
Very rare. I mean, sometimes, let's face it, time time is the big issue these days.
Yeah.
When you look at, especially for CEOs, they're busy. They are busy, busy people. And even, even when people are ghosting you, I often say to the salespeople, if they're ghosting you, a lot of times, I've got like 8 steps in my book on, messages you can do. But a lot of times I'll say, just say, listen, if you're busy, I don't know if you're busy or I don't know if you're not interested. If you're not interested, just write back and say, no,
No.
not interested.
Yeah.
If you're busy, just say, hey, busy, right? Like one simple word. That's all I need to know. And they will respond and they will let you know. They'll just
Yeah.
say busy or no. And or they will let you know oftentimes. And it's not that they're just busy. People are busy. It's the one thing. And one of the classes that I teach a lot of is time management.
Mm.
Salespeople are only spending, it's getting worse. It was 37% or 39% or something. That's how much time they spend actually out in the field selling. It's down to 28%.
Mm.
28% of their time is spent selling out of because they're weak. Like it's terrible because they're so busy doing other things, researching and filling out sales reports. And,
Oh, yeah.
time is the biggest factor that we worry about these days. And for CEOs and stuff, CEOs that they're out there, they're listening, they're watching because that's where everything is happening. It's
Yeah.
social selling.
Yeah.
Everything is happening online on LinkedIn. That's where it's all happening.
Wow. So you're obviously quite busy in everything you do.
I I could always be busier. Are you kidding? I
But
can always be busier.
but what do you do? Everybody talks these days about quote unquote work-life balance, etc. What do you do for that? Like, how do you relax, de-stress? Any hobbies or interests out there?
I get up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. and I work early, and I travel. I tend to travel. That's my thing. I do take breaks and I travel. That is, like I said, I just got back. So, traveling is my thing. I do like to read, but I do read business books. And my husband just bought me an electric bike.
Oh,
So, yeah, I'm very excited about that. We have electric bikes, so we're going to go biking.
well, that's cool.
And yeah, and I golf. That's yeah, we like to golf.
So,
Mhm.
I'm curious in terms of the books you read, that came to mind a question. Who do you think influenced you in your career over the years in terms of, I don't know, maybe role models or that were out there, whether a real life personality or somebody like that
Oh,
is in the business world? Who
uh,
influenced you?
um, two people influenced me in a big, big way. Both were sales leaders of mine. Ron Bryant from when I worked at Ames Brothers Ceramic Tile. He always he taught me how to look for opportunities outside of the box.
Hmm,
So I worked in construction, right, for a manufacturer. And he always taught me, as you're driving by and you see a sign, it's a construction sign, you follow it up, look for it, keep looking, and take the information down. Just always be looking outside of the box.
yeah,
And he taught me that. So that's something I always have done. It's always looking outside of the box. Be creative. Try and find, there's always opportunities out there. So look for them. Don't
yeah,
wait for opportunities to come to you. You look outside the box. So that was one of the big lessons I learned from him. And the other was Pat Adams when I worked for IXL Brick. And he taught me to always give your people the tools to get the job done and just let them go.
hmm,
Don't micromanage them, just give them the tools. And he also taught me to be creative. And he did some amazing, amazing things. And trust your people. Trust your people.
yeah,
Listen to them. He listened to me. I had some crazy ideas and he listened to me and they turned out to be record breaking, and but he trusted me. And the two people in my life that were just amazing.
yeah,
And uh, they trusted me. And that's huge. You have to have trust your employees, trust your leaders, and it's about trust and creativity and being able to just think outside the box. I think for both of them
yeah.
were just huge. And of course, Dale Carnegie.
Why
Right?
are,
Always Dale Carnegie.
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
the Bible, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Well, how to win friends and
Who
influence
hasn't,
people.
yeah, who hasn't read that one book, right?
Oh, so many times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Ask people lots of questions. Keep speaking, right? Let them keep speaking about themselves. People
yeah,
want to, right?
yeah.
The,
People
the
always like
greatest
to
gift.
talk about themselves mostly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, super. Well, thanks very much, Jackie, for joining us today.
Oh, well, thank you, Maura, for having me. And congratulations on this fabulous podcast. I'm so excited. And
Thank you.
yeah, just a pleasure. Just a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. That was Jackie Rainforth, our guest today on Calgary's podcast. She's an international speaker, trainer, author, and consultant specializing in B2B sales, leadership, and business growth. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast. Thanks for joining us today.